Hey folks, I'm Mark, and welcome to my workshop. Everything here starts with a question. Today is all about Dr. Theo's ears. Now, before any of you start, yes, I know, he doesn't really have ears. But what he does have are these attachment points for a necklace that Twiggy would use in the show to carry Dr. Theo around his neck. But saying ears is so much easier than saying necklace attachment points, so that's what I'm going with. So the ears, the big question then for the ears is, how do you make them? How do you craft these? Now the easy answer is, well, just 3D print them. But this will be the most complicated thing that I've tried to build or craft in 3D to date. And as you'll see in just a few moments, there were many steps of this journey. As it turns out, designing, printing, and attaching the ears all came with their own challenges. So this will, like I said, this will definitely be a journey. Now I do have a little spoiler as well. Because I had to attach and reattach the ears so many times in this video, I was actually working on other pieces of Dr. Theo all along, throughout this. So what you'll see in some of the video clips are actually the front bezel for Dr. Theo. It will just show up during, partway through the video. Now, I'm not going to get into the front bezel in this video. That's actually going to be the focus of the next one. But I will go into depth as to how I got that, how I designed that and attached it. So just be patient on that one. So, where to begin? With a drawing. So I started out in Tinkercad like I've done before. I first drew what I'll be calling the base, and I used the same technique as before to get the curvature right. So I created a sphere or a circle rather, that was the right diameter, cut out that piece, and now I've got the curves top and bottom. Then I started with the top, and I cut out the slicing, basically just kept taking incremental slices to carve out the shape that I wanted. Now this seemed to go fairly well, but the real challenge here, and this is what I learned later, I thought that trying to print it right side up like this was going to cause problems because of the bow. And I wasn't sure how well the supports, if I printed supports, how well that was going to be, or how big of a deal that was going to be to take those off. So my thought was to print this in two pieces. One piece was the curved bottom upside down, and then the other was basically everything else. So that's why you're seeing two shapes to it. I didn't try to merge these. I tried to just get everything lined up and sized right, but then when it actually came time to print, I printed two pieces. So here's the first piece, and that printed okay, and then I started noticing I was having some problems with the printer. The printer wasn't printing smoothly, and the prints started coming out more and more warped, and just not the quality that I wanted. So I kept watching the printer, and this is when I noticed the problem. The print literally popped off the bed, and then as the printer kept going, it just started dragging it across, and so you just end up with spaghetti. So it was at that moment I realized I needed to recalibrate the printer. Once I got the printer recalibrated, I was able to print off good sets, cleaned them up, and then I went to attach them. Now I thought I was being clever by putting this piece of cardboard right along the feet and using it as a spacer, so I knew exactly, and I could put both ears at the same height. But because they're two pieces, I had to carve out pieces of the bottom so they would fit together well, and doing that left all kinds of weird gaps, and it just generally did not look good. So I ended up scraping them off. So here, because I adhered them with CA glue, I applied a little bit of heat, and then I was able to pry these off. So once they came off, I decided to do something a little bit different. I switched over to FreeCAD, and I was going to try to do a single piece this time, so try to avoid all of the problems with two pieces coming together. So first I start with the arc that I wanted, and I duplicated that, and then I turned that into a curved plane, and I made that thick, and that became the piece. And then I added a bevel so it actually would look like it was rounded. Then I started creating the top part. So I started with a block, and then just like before, I just kept taking incremental slices out of this block to carve the piece that I needed. So here I'm taking out the sides, and then once I get one, I can duplicate that to the other side, and I know it's the same. And then I take out the center, and like I said, just repeated cuts and carvings to get the shape that I wanted out of this. Now I was curious about FreeCAD to see if this would allow me some more leeway in creating more complicated shapes. I think it's still entirely possible I could do all of this in Tinkercad, but like I said, I really wanted to just try a different program just to get some perspective on the process. And as time went on, I've realized I think honestly I have a use for both Tinkercad and FreeCAD. I think I can, still use both tools. One's not going to replace the other. So after this last bit here, I just wasn't happy with how the carving, the cut was coming out of the top, so I kept having to redo it over and over and over again. But I did finally get it, and it's one piece. And this one I printed right side up, so it meant that the bottom had supports, and those actually didn't turn out to be bad to take off at all. Taking it off with the pliers, and then I mounted a sanding board to my vise, and I just carved out the rest to make it all nice and smooth. And that turned out very, very well. So, all one piece. It looks like it looks pretty close to what's in the show. This one is still a little rough. I ended up having to clean up a little bit more around the corners and whatnot. But went to attach these in the same way as before. I took a piece of cardboard, lined it up at the feet. This time I taped it just so they wouldn't move around on me. And then applied some CA glue to the bottom and attached it to the ring. And I thought this was great. I thought this was going together much better. It certainly looked better being all one piece. But as I discovered, I didn't take a good measurement of that piece of cardboard. And as a result, that cardboard was too long, and my ears made him look like Spock. So we scrape off the ears again, clean up the joints, print off new ears, scuff up the surface again just to get off the old CA glue. And once these are all printed off, then this time I could try to be a little smarter. I started with the cardboard, but I did take a slice out to make them lower. Taped them up again so they wouldn't move. And then I attached them. I used those as my spacers to attach the ears again. And that one finally worked. So, after all of that, I think the ears turned out pretty well. So in the next video, we'll be tackling the front bezel, and I'll show you how that came together. And yes, that was another journey. See you next time.